songwriter, journalism, poet, and deputy Carol Silva. Please welcome Elizabeth Hashagen.
So most of us in this room know Carol Silva. I mean, she's 33 years with News 12 Long Island, and even more than that in this business. She has made an indelible mark on our Long Island history by being the person who has told our Long Island story for 3 decades. She's covered presidents, popes, and real people. I don't want to talk to you about her impressive resume. I want to talk to you about the Carol Silva that many of you don't get to see. The behind-the-scenes Carol. The Carol who was in the delivery room when I gave birth to my daughter, because yes, we are really that close. The Carol who comes over to help Elisa DiStefano when I clean out our closets every season, because we're hoarders. The tireless worker who showed up the day after Hurricane Sandy destroyed my house with gloves and bins and worked and then came back the next day. The soccer coach, the pre-K teacher, the loving mother and wife, the friend who created our News 12 family. She has kept our morning show for the 16 years that I have had the honor of sitting next to her as a real, true family. The highs of marriages and babies, the lows of sickness and loss. Carol Silva is our one true north. She leads by example. She never stops trying to learn new methods, new technology, new ways to connect with our viewers. She takes the time every single day to write to our writers about the reason that she changes their story, to help them soar and be the best so we can all rise. She is kind to the new intern and to our maintenance man, Jose, as she is to our news director. People often ask me, is she really like that? And the answer is yes. What you see on TV is what you get in real life. And that is what makes her so fantastic at her job. She is real and she cares. She cares about getting it right. She cares about the stories. She cares about people, and she cares about our viewers. And by the way, if you give her 2 facts, she will give you an hour of live breaking news. And the reason is because she knows our neighborhoods, the people, the issues, where the Exxon station used to be. Carol is a trailblazer. She has created a path for future female journalists, not just by cracking the glass ceiling, but by fearlessly reaching beyond that to see what opportunities are there for all of us. She has made her voice known without losing the ability to listen. She has stood up for what is right without forgetting to be respectful. Today was a hard one on air for our morning show family. As Carol made the announcement that she has decided to look forward to a January where she doesn't have to wake up at 2:15 in the morning anymore. But I know this is not the end of the road. This is the beginning of her open highway. And I cannot wait to see what she does next, because ladies and gentlemen, you know a fantastic anchor, but she is an even better person. Ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Carol Silva.
She almost made it without crying. And I don't know how many of you saw on the air this morning, but she was sobbing. I'm sorry, you know what, Elizabeth, never mind. I'll stay another 35 years. This is what a wonderful, wonderful celebration of the stories that we all tell, that we all work so hard to tell, no matter how small the story is. You know what? If the story has ever been told about you, and it was told inaccurately, you know how outrageous that is, and our job is to get it right. And man, these stories matter to everybody because it's somebody's life. I don't think that I'm being inducted into the Hall of Fame because of this, but I do want to say that in 1987, I was the cover girl of the registration for the Long Island Press Club. It said, join the pros. That was some hairdo. We went through my hairdos on the air today, by the way, 35 years of hairdos. Carol Silva, WGSM and News 12 Long Island. I was only part-time the first 2 months at News 12. And WGSM, Melba Colliver for News 12. And Howard Schneider, the publisher of Newsday. I better remember to take this with me. It also means I have a lot to clean out of my office, right? Absolutely. So Elizabeth is talking about the next chapter. This is it. I mean, what more do I need than being inducted into the Long Island Journalism Hall of Fame? You know, Long Island is tough. We are on the doorstep of New York City. Half of us go to work in New York City all the time. The stories are big, they're major. Every time a big story breaks, what do we say? You guys at Newsday know it, everybody. Where's the Long Islander? Right? Because we all know there's a Long Islander. In good times and in bad times, right? You guys know. I can say, Christopher Carroll, thank you for working so hard for getting me inducted into Hall of Fame. Pat Dolan, thanks for keeping me on the job for all those years. I appreciate that. I was thinking about it today. How many thousands of stories I've written. And the key is, and it's what Elizabeth was talking about, the key is that a story doesn't matter unless we make it matter, unless we make it relevant. How many thousands of stories I've written, how many millions of words I've typed. For God's sakes, how many cans of hairspray have I gone through in the past 35 years of my television career? Well, we are so lucky to do what we do. I was lucky enough to be the Grand Marshal. I'm half Irish, half Mexican. I was lucky enough to be the Grand Marshal of the Farmingdale St. Patrick's Day Parade last year. And there was a little girl, I had been a Girl Scout leader for years, and there was a little girl who came up to me at the end of the parade, and she said to me, what do you really do? And I had to think about it in 9, 10-year-old terms, and I said, you know, I am fortunate enough that I get to know people's stories. I get to ask them about their stories. I get to go inside their stories, and if we're really lucky, we help make their stories better. I mean, what a gift. Pat talked about that, the gift of knowing people's stories. You know, we stand next to people in subways and trains all the time, anonymously in cars, but we have the gift, the opportunity to know people's stories. My first job was at WBAB in Babylon. My college professor took my final project in Radio 101, brought it to BAB and said, I found our part-timer. I've been in the business since my junior year doing news. My second job was at WGBB. I walked into that newsroom, there were 8 men and 1 woman, me. And we did have a woman working part-time in the news department on the weekends. I first was a field reporter at WGBB. I walked into the newsroom that first day, and what was it filled with? I walked into the State Supreme Court building, right, the press room there, and what was it filled with? Men. 3 women, Surely, but all strangers to me. By the way, the guys were old, they were almost 40. I walked into this room, in the distance, and all of a sudden I turned around and I saw a familiar face, and this was my first word in that press room. Coach! I turned around and there was Pat Melton. There was Pat Melton. And Coach, not only am I honored to be inducted with you today, but you should know that when I got out of college, the first thing I did was I coached CYO swimming at St. Rosa in Massachusetts. Because, girlfriend, you inspired in a lot of ways. And you've got a lot of CBS too. I know, I've heard. Also, I have to salute Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer because the pictures are so important. When I went from radio to television, J. Conrad Williams. Some of my unforgettable moments, the first trial that I covered, the murder trial of Dr. Charles Freed Good. I'll never forget the line. He injected his wife Sophie with a lethal dose of Demerol, and then he was caught at Kennedy Airport with a suitcase, $450,000 worth of, right? You're shaking your head, yes, with the documents, their stock papers, and the jewels. And he said, I was coming back the next day because I had to see patients. I wasn't running away. Well, after the trial, the all-male jury got up, And they did what men did, they went to the men's room. The men in the media pool, who I was covering with, got up and they went into the men's room. And I said, well, wait, what about me? And they turned around and they said, we'll be right out. 1 minute, 2 minutes. That was the first interview I ever did alongside a urinal. Another memorable moment. That's okay. Another memorable moment. The Shore nuclear power plant. Now, not only was Shore phenomenal for the young people who chained themselves to the fence, who climbed over the fence, nor Bredis, who went on to become a county legislator after being one of those protesters back in the day. But I was standing in the tower, in the cooling tower of the Shore nuclear power plant. And Lilco was trying to do a bang-up job of convincing reporters that this was it was never going to be a traffic problem on Long Island. If there was ever an accident, we would be fine. And I was standing in the catwalk up there, myself and June Bruce. June was the PR person for Lilco, and she was really selling it big time. And I said to her, June, this is a hard sell. I mean, why would you take a job like this? Where did you come from? She said, this job is easy. She did PR for Richard Nixon before that. There was the day that I introduced a priest and a rabbi, Monsignor Tom Hartman and Rabbi Mark Gelman. I brought them together because I thought we needed to talk about, at a time when Passover and Easter were coinciding, not about our differences, not about the wars that were going on in the Middle East. Let's talk about what we have in common. And they came in, and as they said, they spent 2.5 minutes in the studio, 2.5 hours in the parking lot. Mark Gelman did not leave the next day to take over a temple, a congregation in Miami, despite his membership they were giving him at the Doral Golf Course. He and Father Tom stayed together, and for more than 20 years, until Tom's Parkinson got the best of him, they helped to change the world. And that is what we have the ability to do, the small things that we do, bringing the two of them in there that day. You don't know what it can lead to, but they created such an incredible ripple effect. There are a lot of good people out there. There are a lot of good stories. Frankly, I think we need to focus more on those good stories, because there's a lot of bad crap too, and we talk about it, and sometimes it's easier to get to those stories, and it's harder to find a way to tell the good stories. I think that we're compelled to do that. Young journalists out there, where are you? Stand up if you're a college student, a high school student. This one's for you. I still have hanging in my office in a broken lucite frame my first rejection letter from Cablevision in 1983. So, as Coach said, no is just the beginning of a negotiation, or as I say to those people whose signatures are on the bottom, na-na-na-na-poo-poo. I have to say I'm going to miss having coffee with the best of 3 million Long Islanders every single morning, so don't be surprised if you see me hanging around Dunkin' Donuts looking for the retired people there in the morning who are willing to have coffee with anybody. Most of all, I am going to miss sitting next to Elizabeth every day, elbow to elbow. It's true, the delivery room. I didn't catch the baby, but I was there. We know about each other's lives in excruciating detail. The good times, the bad times, the things that really bind you together. But News 12, I say, I get the family I get. My brother is here, Brian, with his wife, Luann. The family who I chose, my husband, Bob. And the family that I choose at work. Elizabeth, Alan, Kelly, Henry in the back. I mean, you guys are it. We have been through weddings, wakes, and fancy balls together, and for that it's a gift. And here's the secret sauce of News 12. You know why it works so well? Why our numbers are so great? We don't compete with each other, especially in the morning. I work with the most remarkable crew. Elisa DiStefano, Elizabeth, Rich Hoffman, and I work to make each other better every day. Each one of us is good at something, and we're constantly helping each other. That's why, frankly, we blow away the New York City stations on the numbers every day. We work together. We are stronger together. You haven't seen the last of me. Plus, I have a code to your garage, so you know that. And, I mean, the writers, the producers, the people who you don't see, they're all family. I would like you all to take pity on my husband. Our friends are here, Clarissa, Elizabeth, and Frank. And Frank described being married to an energetic woman this way. Well, my husband is about to use the full boat focus of my energy. I will no longer be getting up at 2:15 in the morning and leaving the house. Frank described it this way one day. It's like strapping a rocket to your back and then lighting it. So honey, I'm coming home. What's next is Christmas, and then January is either the attic first and then the basement, or the basement first and then the attic next. And then our daughter is getting married in April, and I'm going to have a relaxed time preparing for that wedding. And then Bob had a suggestion for me on the way here, and I may take it. I think I'm going to run for president because what the hell everybody else is.